What's up, fellas? How are the Junks this morning?
We are doing well.
GP, when you're at Pupatella, get some meatballs. Their meatballs are spectacular.
Guy, you think I'm not thinking about meatballs for the last 4 days?
Yeah, I'm glad you are.
He's definitely already pre-planned it.
It's a good one.
Just so much pizza, so much draft talk.
Mhm.
This is going to be an amazing day.
Now you're going to be at the Pupatella in Chantilly.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. Hanging
Perfect.
out with listeners. It's actually, we got the trifecta today, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because you got the NFL draft
Right.
continuing with the
Yep.
Commanders needing to do some moving and shaking here.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Caps playing Game 3 tonight, looking to go up 3-0 on Montreal. And then Juan Soto's back in town with the Mets
That's right.
to take on the Nationals. And James Woods, one of the National League leaders with 8 bolts already.
Pretty
so
nice.
Things are looking up.
Very good.
So, what was your initial impression last night? I think, like most people around here, we are all kind of thinking, well, okay, they're going to probably draft an edge rusher or a corner, maybe an outside shot, jolting the receiving core or something. I didn't really have tackle on my board, but I get it. And for some reason, I have a bizarre trust in this group right now.
So let me ask you guys this real quick before I even answer that.
Mhm.
Did you have one guest say Josh Connerly's name to you
No,
about the
not
Commanders?
that I can recall.
No.
And I talked about this too, Grant. Like,
Yeah.
I was listening to GND driving around, and you guys did the montage of everybody at the station and people that
Right.
covered the team. And I don't think I heard Josh Connerly's name once. Maybe one, but it was like 20 people. And
Maybe this is a product of them being 29, Casey.
yeah,
Because it's just never in my lifetime have they not traded back or something and
Right.
picked that late. But this has not happened. Danny and I have been doing the show since 14. Obviously, I was on the beat before that, where we talk about the draft ad nauseum, for months, just like, here's what they could do. We do the same things over and over, right?
Mhm.
His name did not come up as a pick for them one time from anybody.
I don't think it came up on this show either.
It didn't.
Not that I can recall.
That's wild. But
Yeah.
Peters operates in the shadows.
Mhm.
The Laramie Tunsil trade came out of nowhere. So I guess to answer your question, Eric, it was not on my radar either. It certainly makes sense, though, right?
Mhm.
And while I would have preferred to go BPA at a bigger position of need, because I actually think you can make the case, not only is tackle not their biggest need, I said last night, I don't think it was a top 5 need. Now, I think Andrew Wiley is a very average at best right tackle, so you could clearly upgrade from him. But I thought they were going to, because Brandon Coleman, who they drafted in the 3rd round last year and started at left tackle, I thought was going to kick over to the right side. That's what Dan Quinn said. He didn't specify tackle. That was definitely the assumption. Peters made it seem like he'd compete with Wiley. So I thought that competition would elevate that spot. But here's what you do now. In one fell swoop this offseason, after finding your franchise quarterback last year, you've got your bookend left tackle and right tackle in Tunsil and Connerly. You've kicked Coleman inside, where he played a lot of guard in college. He could be your left guard of the future. When Cosme comes back, he's your right guard. In the meantime, Wiley played some guard with Kansas City, so he could play there. Could be a backup tackle. So you've really upgraded 4 spots with 2 moves, essentially. And I'm just never going to be upset when you take protecting Jaden Daniels very seriously. So it's not a move you can dislike, even if it's unsexy.
Yeah, and Grant, heading into round 2, like, if they don't move off the pick at 61, like, I literally have no idea, like, who they're dialing in on. It would be crazy to think, okay, I know what Adam Peters is going to do 30 picks from now.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea where they're going to head.
And I said the same
course
thing.
The next pick.
Last year, like, sort of the order and way they picked guys was not intuitive to me. I remember that specifically.
Well, remember last year in the 2nd round, Johnny Newton's name wasn't really on the board either.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
It was they picked guys. Like, I don't know the process, but they have earned the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Definitely have. I don't even like admitting this, but I mean, it just is what it is. Like, I have never been less plugged in on their thinking or how they do things in my life. Like, people keep saying, what do you think they're going to do? And for years, I would either, somebody would be not leaking, but giving you an idea of how they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't really do that anymore internally. I mean, they are very comfortable in their own skin, operating the way they want to. They're not kind of putting out feelers or getting the word out via the media and floating things as trial balloons up in the air. They just kind of do what they want to do, and you're either on board or you're not. So, yeah, they have one more pick before 128 now in the 4th round at 26th in round 4. So you're basically talking about what is essentially a 5th round pick. I think you've got to do everything you can to move back at that spot just to add more selections. But you're right, Cakes. I mean, they could go – they need weapons, right? So if they only make that pick and do nothing else, you could You could go running back, you could go wide receiver. They may just say we don't have a choice but to address the pass rushing need because we can't get enough pass rush with this group at the edge.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely need cornerback help. It's hilarious because they're in the NFC title game last year, guys, and they do have a lot of needs, which speaks to how dynamic Jaden was to mask a lot of deficiencies.
Yeah. So, do you have any sense, like, I mean, just any sense of where they might lean, just kind of based on what might be more available now, based on how the first round played out?
Right. So their actions tell us, right? Because there are no words, as I said, coming out. Their actions were, if you remember, they did try to trade for Trey Hendrickson at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that they need edge help. Trey Hendrickson's also still intriguing to me. I don't know what the latest is with him in Cincinnati, but they did take a starting defensive end.
Yeah, doesn't seem great.
So is that a situation where you pick the phone back up if you're Adam Peters and you say, okay, obviously you guys couldn't get a first-round pick. He's going into what is likely his final year there. Maybe it's 61 and something next year, and you go get a 15-sack defensive end. Is that something he would try to do? If you can't pull off something to get a starting veteran edge, then I think you come back from 61 and you try to have 2 picks before 128, because then you can address a defensive need and still get one of those weapons. I think they need a running back with speed badly. I really like Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech, possibly, in the 3rd round if they could do that. But I would try to have 2 picks tonight in rounds 2 and 3. And I feel like if you could do that and hit a couple of the needs now, you've won early on.
Getting back to Connolly for a bit, I mean, we're just seeing clips now of him getting direct snaps and running the ball in. We're seeing clips of him being tackle eligible and catching touchdowns. Like, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury,
he's an athlete, man. Yeah,
he's gonna work some magic with an offensive lineman, I would think.
Uber athletic, right? At the Caps game, game 2, Trent Scott was sitting right behind me. It was like their tackle eligible, who's the answer to the greatest question in Commanders history, which is who caught the first ever touchdown pass from Jaden Daniels, because he is the offensive lineman against the Bengals. But yeah, you don't think Cliff wants to get in his bag a little bit with an athletic tackle? Have you guys seen this kid Connerly's face, by the way?
Yeah.
He's so young.
I just saw him. Yeah. He looked like he was 15.
I feel 80. He looks 9, this kid.
I know.
It is. I mean, I know I'm now at the age where these guys were like, I was a junior, senior in high school when they were being born. But even by the standard of like players are young now, the kid looks 15. But he moves really, really well. He was actually like fairly decent. I think like a running back at one point, late high school, transition to the line. He's a monster kid. And he's so young. And the one thing I kept hearing last night when I was just after the pick asking people, because as I said, I just didn't do much research on any of the linemen, was there's so much projectability. Like Kuiper said on the telecast, and I think this is the consensus thought, whether it's top 5, top 10. If he went back to school and came out next year, he would have been the offensive tackle in the top 10 that everybody was talking about. So they just pounce a year early and get a guy that they think's a plug-and-play right tackle for years to come.
Yeah, I saw you retweeted Mike Tice, the former Vikings and I believe Jaguars coach, that he was basically saying that he thought Connolly was the best offensive lineman in the draft.
I think it's one of those things where depending on the scout, if you want to use that word, and in this case, he's the scout, like depending on the person that's watching the tape, what are you looking for? And if you like the size and the length and the fluidity and the footwork and someone that, again, is projecting out that athlete, Trent Williams who's going between the legs and dunking in basketball or whatever, then this is the kind of guy that you could sign up for. And obviously Cliff Kingsbury was all in. I'm sure you guys have seen the video that the Commanders put out overnight you talked about. But, Peters has the sheet that was left on his desk, basically straight out of draft day, where Vontae Mack, no matter what, right? Where he says, I want the left tackle from Oregon. So they went and got the kid. They've got an upgrade, not only at right tackle now, but I think it helps them on the interior. Because I was a little surprised they didn't do more at guard in free agency. But if you look at it, you kind of did, because now you've added Brandon Coleman at guard. And if you want to move Wiley to guard, you can do that. Trent Scott's still in the organization, who played a bunch of tackle for them.
I think they're kind of loaded, actually, at offensive line.
It's one of their strengths now.
How out there I say that. The other thing I think it's becoming quite obvious is it's important to them to be a bigger, stronger football team. Like they want to be, they added size as far as I'm concerned. Especially when you think about Kinlaw, and that's all they talked about is how big that guy is. I don't know. That seems to be something that's important to this group.
That's a good point, especially up front, right? I mean, Laremy Tunsil is 6'5". Like, he is huge. He's got length. Also, it's interesting to me, and I'll be curious. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have a great file on Connerly as a player, but Oregon threw the football a ton, right? Laremy Tunsil is a pass protection first offensive lineman. I don't want to call him finesse, but he's not like nasty and dirty. I'll be curious to see Connerly's what the reports are on him in that regard, because I'd imagine they feel really good about him in pass pro, but you need that nasty streak. You need to be able to run the football too. That's certainly not as much of a strength for Tunsil, so that's something I'm a little bit curious about, but he does feel almost Tunsil-esque in that way. It's almost like maybe that's what they're looking at the tackle position.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they stay at 61 or, like you said, trade out and add a couple pieces. If Luther Burden, if they really like Luther Burden and he slips down to 61, they might jump all over it.
So that's the question, right? Bish is like, if you get one of those guys that falls,
yeah,
now all of a sudden the trade back, which seems inevitable or almost a necessity. I don't know. Could you guys feel okay if they don't move back, they make another pick, and then they don't pick again until the end of the fourth round? Does that work?
I've kind of argued that I'm okay with it. Listen, I'm just a dummy, but they did so much in the offseason and via free agency, and we know they're going to sign 25 guys via free agency 10 seconds after the draft. Anyway, I mean, they're going to have and some of those guys are going to make the team. They're going to sign someone. So I'm kind of okay with it. I don't know.
I'm just starting to talk myself into the possibility. There's going to be a position group going in that we don't like on paper. But that happened last year at 2 or 3 spots, and they got to the NFC title game. So whether, I'd like it to not be edge. I just don't know where the pass rush is coming from. My guess at this point is that they would say they're going to use Frankie Louvu coming downhill off the edge more, who was an outstanding rusher, both in Carolina, and we saw it last year. He finished second on the team, narrowly behind Fowler in sacks. But you lost 10-plus from Fowler. He just wasn't as impactful as the sack totals. Like, everything positive, essentially, that he did, other than the pick 6 at home 1 week, was a sack. The pressures otherwise, the TFLs weren't that high. So I don't think replacing him is going to be as arduous as people think. But you do need someone who can get home, and maybe they're going to plan on, if we see them, say, take a linebacker off ball earlier than we think, maybe whether that's in round 3 if they trade back or in round 2 somehow. People go, what the heck was that? Maybe the point is that Louvu stands up off the edge on passing downs, and he goes and gets you 11 or 12
Can I understand? Yeah. I'm sorry. I maybe I misheard you.
Yeah.
So you're saying you hope it's not an edge guy they select?
No. I'm saying I'm talking myself into the possibility that they might just not be able to. I want them to go get an edge. That was my preference, especially when the guys fell into their lap. I'm just saying Louvu is an outstanding pass rusher.
Yeah.
And while we think of him as this off-ball linebacker, maybe that's their plan. I'm trying to figure out, like, where are the sacks coming from? Mm-hmm. If I think Dorrance Armstrong is probably like more of a 7, 8, 9 sack guy, and Frankie Louvu could get you 10, 11 in a perfect year coming up, like, is that enough? Like, where else do they come from? And that's kind of my concern at this point.
Are you with me? I'm very heavily leaning towards the Latimore thing as a disaster.
I'm trying to talk it into them. It's a little too early to give up on Latimore.
And I think that's fair. But I do think it's their biggest red flag to date.
Oh, it's by far, as of this moment, their biggest miss.
Yeah.
But I tend to give the benefit of the doubt to the fact that, here is what is a fact, irrefutable. He was hurt when they acquired him.
Mm-hmm.
He was chasing his tail, basically trying to get healthy, and never really looked healthy to me. He didn't run that well, I didn't think, at any point, like turning and running with receivers. And then he's learning a new system and getting acclimated. So those are all excuses for why he played bad. The result was he played really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave up a lot. I mean, you give up that, and then not only does he play that way, but then you double down when you could have gotten out of the contract, which I had no problem with. I would have done the exact same thing. But you need him to be really, really good. So to your point, yeah, if it's a struggle again this year and Latimore's washed or they just guessed wrong, well, not only is it a big problem and a miss for them, and a rare miss because they haven't missed much, as you said, but now corner is also a bit of a fiasco on paper, right? Because it's Mikey Sanders still, and Jonathan Jones and not much else. But I tend to think the truth is in the middle. Like, I think we've seen him play his best football. He's not going to be a Pro Bowler every year or an All-Pro again. But also, I think he's got to be better than last year. I can't imagine we're going to see that again. That was bad.
Grant, we appreciate the time early. People should go out and see Grant and Danny today at Pupatella in Chantilly.
Pupatella,
2 until 6:30. There's a lot of DC sports on deck, as Grant mentioned at the top of the interview. Thanks, Grant. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Expect some cold pizza waiting at your desks tomorrow, gentlemen.
Nice.
Very good.
Nice. Maybe Valdez will grace you with his presence there, and you can use his gift card.
Yes.
Nice. Let's do it.
His VIP
Let's
card.
make this happen.
Yeah, VIP card. Get it right.
Actually.
All right, Grant.
Right.
Good to hear from you.
Thanks, buddy.
Enjoy the draft tonight, guys. See ya.
Yep. Don't forget Mike Jones coming up at 8, Chris Russell at 9:20. When we come back, we're going to try to throw a dart and figure out where Shedeur Sanders is going to land. Will he get picked in round 2? We'll try to discuss that next.